There's something that we teach called business icebergs. It's because we started doing business in Norway and Finland. We were talking about business icebergs for a long time. And a business iceberg is, it's like a threat to your company. And the reason we call it an iceberg is usually threats to your company are hidden. You know, the majority of the threat is under the water and only a little bit of the ice is above. And so usually these things just come along as a surprise, like a change in the law, a change in the technology, a new competitor. Like, for example, there were many, it's happened on the internet many times where there's been services. Did you guys ever have Classmates here, classmates.com or something like that? In America, they had a thing called classmates.com, and you could meet all the people you used to go to school with. It was really cool until Facebook came along. Because Classmates was charging you for it. And then Facebook came along and did it for free. In fact, Facebook came along and did for free what many other websites were charging for, and they were put out of business. Facebook was like an iceberg for them. And so when we talk about this mini exits, like doing your role map and stepping out of roles, here's one of the reasons. If your business is like a ship and there are icebergs out there, can you spot the icebergs if you're inside the business all the time? No, you can't. If you're busy doing stuff all the time, if you're like fixing this and managing that and hiring this and training this and you're doing everything all the time, that's like being in your ship. You're in the engine room, now you're in the galley, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're into an iceberg. Some icebergs are only dangerous to your business. A new competitor comes along and changes the business. But other icebergs can change the industry. And I remember the first time I ever saw a business iceberg. I was 17 years old. Do you guys know Aerosmith? The band? So when I was a kid, I was heavily into Aerosmith, and so Aerosmith they'd broken up, and then they got back together, and they released an album, and I liked the title of the album because it described the life I wanted to live. It was called Permanent Vacation. And I thought, I want to buy this album. So I go off to the store to buy the album. When I get to the store, in the store, I see for the very first time a compact disc. Never saw one before. I didn't care. I bought my album and I walked out. I saw the compact disc, I thought, oh neat, and I walked out. Here's what was happening in the industry. In the industry, when 8-track tapes came along, everybody said 8-track tapes will replace vinyl, the records, and then they didn't. And then cassette tapes came along. Oh, that will definitely replace vinyl. And then they didn't. So when CDs came along, people thought, well, that won't replace vinyl. It did. Like overnight. Within 6 months, you could barely buy vinyl in America anymore. And as a 17-year-old kid just finishing school, I looked at that and it scared the hell out of me. I thought, oh my God, it used to be you get a job and you can have a job for life. And now all of a sudden, an entire industry can be wiped out because of one technological change. And so even at the age of 17, 18 years old when this happened, every time I took a job with a company, I was always watching the horizon. What's coming? What are the threats? What could be happening to this business? And so this is a really powerful exercise because we don't give it nearly enough thought. And the drag is you can be doing everything right. You can growing your business, doing great marketing, hiring the right people. You can be doing everything right, and then bam, you sail into something and it just kills everything. You know, I want to give you an example that when you start watching for these things, it just puts you in a lot better place. And here's one. My very first company, we did a lot of repair and maintenance services for handheld computers. Not iPhones and stuff, they didn't have that then. This is like for doing inventory, barcode scanning, boring stuff, wireless networking, And so we repaired all these things, and we repaired them for all the big retail, wholesale, and logistics companies all over the UK and some in Europe. And we were not an authorized repair company. We were doing the repair, but the manufacturer didn't like us doing it because the manufacturer wanted to do all of the repair themselves. And so the way they tried to stop us is they would not sell us parts. They wouldn't give us technical information. And that was the way it was. They were stupid because they ended up laying off 10 of their top engineers, and I hired them all. So now I didn't need their technical information. I had it. And so I started my repair company. And instead of buying parts from them because they wouldn't sell them to me, I found distributors around the world that would sell me whole units. Like I found that I could buy a unit in South Africa complete at cheaper than the parts because they were selling them at discounts in the third world. So I started going around to all the third world distributors and buying complete units from them so I could break them apart and have the parts. So I figured it out. My business was fine. One day the manufacturer decided they didn't like my company, they didn't like all my other, like I had friends and other competitors that did the same as me. And so they changed their policy. From now on, we are going to have authorized repair centers, and you can all become one. You can come, all you do is fill out this form, and now you can buy parts, and we'll technically train you, and we'll give you all the documentation, and it'll be a lot easier for you to run your business. And all of my competitors ran ahead. Yes, sir, we'll do it. And they started buying their parts, so they stopped buying parts from all the other places. They started getting technical information from the manufacturer, so they stopped doing their own research. And 1 year later, the manufacturer changed their mind yet again. We will no longer sell parts to anybody. And all of my competitors were put out of business overnight. Why didn't I do it? Because I saw that the little tip was a big iceberg. I knew what they were doing because I was watching for it. And if you're so focused inside your business all the time, you can't see stuff like that. It was only because I had business freedom. It was only because I had time to think. Come on, guys, are there times where you feel like you don't even have time to think? Well, if you don't have time to think, how are you going to see something like that? And so what you have to do is make sure you build your business so you do have time to think. Then you anticipate things like that. By the way, think about this for a minute. Are icebergs, are icebergs a threat? Yeah. Could an iceberg come along and kill somebody's business? Yes. But are they also a great opportunity? Yeah, they can be a phenomenal opportunity. Here's an example. All of my competitors got put out of business overnight. What was left? Me.
Huge market.
A massive market. And I didn't have to lower my prices anymore. I could just name my price and get the business. And I would tell you that one iceberg was the reason that I was able to sell my business later, because we were just making such good profits because we had no competitors. So business icebergs are something you definitely want to, and we don't have time to do a whole workshop on this, but here's the exercise. This is the exercise you do. Have you met some cool people here? Yeah. Make sure you switch some business cards around, and here's what you want to do. Book a lunch with somebody, go have lunch with them, and say, let's talk about business icebergs. And the way you do it is you say, here's my business. What do you think my icebergs are? And then they're going to start giving you ideas. Well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? And at the end of that, you're going to need to take a shot of tequila. Because it's going to scare you. You're going to, okay, give me more. I should have said vodka probably, really, right? I don't know, tequila just was on my mind. But the point is that at first it's going to be really scary for you. But now that you have that list, now you can start saying, what will I do with it? And it's funny because Kurt came to one of our seminars. We did this workshop on icebergs. And about 2 weeks ago, he writes to me on Facebook and he says, Eric, an iceberg just came along and it was like a huge cold shower for the whole business. It was dangerous. And at first I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm really worried. Well, he's a master of suspense. He waits like 6 minutes and then he writes the rest of it. And he goes, but because we did the icebergs exercise, we were fully prepared for it and our clients didn't even notice. That's how you want it to be. That when some catastrophe happens, your clients don't even notice.